James Bishop, thanks for joining.
No, thanks for having me, Ben. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. So you are the Vice President Ecosystem and Strategic Partnerships at SiteMinder, which is a very long title.
Correct.
And I know you're with SiteMinder for 10 plus years, right?
Yeah. I'm in my 12 and a half years now, I think. Yeah. Um, I think how far you want to go back. I might end up aging myself a little bit, but you know, I I didn't grow up thinking I was going to work in hospitality technology. To be honest, I don't think many people do. And I think like many people, I was working within hospitality and hotels and had a bit of a geek streak when it came to our sort of hospitality technology in the hotel group back then, and ended up working with our provider, which was some years ago. And so I spent time with different technology providers, mostly in starting support and doing onboarding and customer training before I moved into more commercial roles in sales. And then I joined SiteMinder 12 and a half years ago. They had been slightly present in Europe at that point, but really started the expansion back in 2012. And when I joined that office in Hammersmith, I think there was 12 of us in there on the first day. And, within 12 months, I think we were 60 odd people, and we'd moved or moved walls in the office to accommodate people many times by then.
Let me quickly double click on this time, because I remember back then when we talked to SiteMinder and met you guys at conferences, and I remember the story kind of how you scaled in Europe, which was very specific, like what your target was, what your target market was, and how you actually pulled this off. I think it's a very cool story, actually, how you grew, as you just said, like from a couple of people, then I think at the end, like 200 plus or so that just were in the commercial team. So what was your focus? How did that?
I think the word there was focus, right? I mean, we were, first of all, very committed to it. And, our leadership and investors were very much committed to the mission, as it were, and the vision at that time. We were very focused on specific markets and specific segments and specific regions. We knew where we were strong, and we went after those markets. We grew the business and it's moved and changed since then. But we're in London. We were very much at that point, a office-based organization, and we grew a UK team, and then a Spain team, and then a France team, and a Germany team, and those were the markets that we focused on. We had a really great product, a really good positioning for hotels. A lot of it is timing, right? There, at that point, the offerings for hotels and what we were doing were, there was a lot of people out there doing fairly limited solutions. Word of mouth and hotelier advocacy for SiteMinder really did help us grow in those times.
What type of product did you sell back then? Like, was it the single product, like the channel manager that you not, I don't know if the word invent is the right word, but you kind of made that channel manager as your main purpose. And then to who did you sell? You didn't sell to the big enterprise, right? You sold specifically to a subset in the market, very specifically to target, I think, this group. But tell me a little bit about, like, kind of what product actually, what was your focus on product, value proposition on product, and then to who were your ideal customer profile, the
Yeah, okay.
ICP?
So back then we actually had two products at that point. So we have obviously channel manager as it was back then. So we started out as a channel manager. We're distributing hotel rates and inventory. What we did different, I guess, and what really stood us out, as you suggested, was that pooled inventory model. So platforms that you can manage multiple channels in a single place existed already. But in the vast majority of cases, users were still making a decision about, I've got 20 rooms to sell in a particular room type. how many are going of those 20 are going on each channel. SiteMinder looked at it very differently and said, look, just give all channels 20 rooms and we're gonna manage that inventory down. And that was probably the key differentiator between
No
what
one did that back then?
I believe we started that. But look, there was fewer providers doing that back then. The original sort of channel managers, if you like, were still very much scraping data, and users were given a single extranet, and it was very much copying the partner extranets into a single login, as opposed to really solutioning something that's going to improve and optimize the distribution for the hotels. But we saw ourselves very much in those days as plumbing, right? So, and people still do, like, we're taking data from here and we're moving it there and we're sending it back. As we've evolved, that plumbing has become the core of our platform, but it's not what we sell. We sell optimization and utilizing the tool sets that we have in place to optimize distribution and revenue for hotels. But back then we had the channel manager, and we'd recently released SiteMinder's the booking button, as it was at the time. And these were two products. So here's your channel manager, and you can add a booking engine to drive direct reservations. And it's incredible. I was selling to hotels back then for SiteMinder. The number of hotels that, had an inquiry form on their website. The segments we were talking to, we were, looking at hotels with 25, 30 rooms and above. And I guess we went from two directions. We also had teams looking at the larger groups, if you like, regional groups. People have got anywhere between 15 and 150 hotels. But you're right, we weren't chasing like the global chains. We felt that where we sat and the value proposition for SiteMinder was very strong in that independent and groups market. So a smaller regional groups market.
And then you did didn't you do a lot of telesales, basically? So on the phone and saying,
Oh, yeah.
hey, and then this is what you grew this. And I think if you do this telesales approach, it's actually so different than all of the other approaches like enterprise or mid-market.
Yeah, and
It's a
incredible.
very hard skill set to actually have and to build up. What are your learnings on this telesales approach when you sold to independent in 100 people, different languages?
So when I joined SiteMinder, I didn't come from a telesales background, or I was selling PMS into hotel groups, and that was minimum like 6 months sales process. And you drive out over there, or you fly out to see them, and you set everything up, and you spend half a day and you're solutioning and doing a demonstration. You got a sales engineer, and it's a very different setup. For me, it's the most important skill I ever learned in SiteMinder was taking, yes, I can do a lot of reasoning and selling with hotels. The great thing is for me, when you get into that telesales mode and, we're making 40 or 50 phone calls a day, and a good day might be, I had 3 great conversations with hotels today, because I know within 2 weeks I'm going to close, 1 or 2 of those. So you don't have to wait a long time in that sales process for a gratification. You get it a lot. And that was a really important skill to learn. And that was probably the biggest change from what I was doing previously to what I'm doing now. So, we had salespeople typically doing, sort of 40 to 50 calls a day. And we target on how many demos and how many of those return into customers. It really was a lesson in scaling growth, as it were.
And then was it already self-service a lot after you sold it? Or was it then a lot of hand-holding with another team to set them up and then get
Well,
them
I mean,
live?
we put in some. Obviously, there's further teams down the track that ensure that customer becomes a successful user of SiteMinder relatively quickly. And that neither of those models scale to get you to 50,000. So we have a lot now. A lot of that's moved into digital journeys with hotels. A hotel can actually sign up to one of our products off the website and set themselves up, and off they go. So it's very different to what we were then. But I think, and if we had a do-over, maybe, that digital journey would have come in a lot quicker, or maybe a lot sooner. It's a lot easier to engineer it into a product from the start than trying to sort of backwards engineer that in later on, when you say, well, okay, we've got to 10, 15,000 hotels. How does 15,000 hotels become 30,000 hotels? You can't just keep doubling your headcount and finding another country to go and start again. Every country's got localization requirements, local channel requirements, or distribution requirements, and they all behave differently. Hotels in different countries, in some countries, they behave differently from, one town to another, and have different functionality requirements or ways they want to work with products. Picking your sort of target markets and where you're going to be most successful, I think is very important in that scaling journey.
Okay. And then, okay, so fast forward, where are you today? So like, tell us, I mean, of course, you're a public
Yeah,
company.
so I spent, I think, I was in the sales organization with SiteMinder up until about 2018, from being a salesperson to running a sales team to, my last role in there was as market VP for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So running the sales org for that. I've always been in hospitality technology, and before that in hotels, and I love that market. I love what I do. But the more you go up a sales org, the less you are connected to that industry. And it becomes a lot more around numbers, conversions, hiring. And I love that side of the business and learned a lot too. But I was given the opportunity by the business to look at our connectivity business. So our connectivity ecosystem, and how can we better blend that with the commercial side of the business and grow that as we look to grow in the different markets and so on. So I moved into that connectivity partnerships role at the time.
SiteMinder, what do I expect? Like, what is your portfolio today? How does the portfolio look like today? And then maybe you can talk about, in this portfolio, how connectivity and partners play a role within what you offer as products as of today.
When you talk about portfolio, our portfolio of products,
Yes. Yes.
as the SiteMinder brand, we have one product now. And that's one of the
Okay.
big changes that happened over the last 3 to 5 years, where, we developed Channel Manager, then a booking engine, then a CMS and something else. But we've spent a long time, relative period, bringing that all into a single platform for our users. So you can sign up to the SiteMinder platform at different levels, and it includes your PMS integration, which used to be a product. Like we would sell you a PMS integration, or so now it includes that. Or you can have a package of the SiteMinder platform that includes direct booking enablement, which might include your content management system, your direct booking engine. So within that, you can enable a whole bunch of different sort of add-on solutions. So within the SiteMinder platform, hotels can sign up to Demand Plus, which is our meta search manager, where we take on a lot of the optimization, or all of the optimization around meta search and driving transactions through those channels for hotels. We've got SiteMinder Pay that sits in there, which helps to automate transactions or payment transactions for hotels when they're doing every rate we see comes in, and you can see advanced purchase rates. We can run a lot of automation to ensure that, they're not missing revenue for, those advanced purchases, and they're being taken on time, and, for cancellations that are outside of the cancellation policy and everything else.
Isn't that pay? It's like, just quickly on the pay one, so I understand, like, the pay can sit on your own IBE. That's one part of the payment. And then
Correct.
you're saying, if guest books, let's say, I don't know, via booking.com, you run this virtual credit card through your payment as well.
We can do, yeah, for the
You
hotels.
can do
So
that.
correct. Yeah, we can do that also. We also have a product called Channels Plus, which is a fairly more recent one, or I call it a product. Again, that's wrong considering what I just said. we have an add-on, if you like, called Channels Plus, which is another transactional product, which is where the hotel can sign up to a service whereby SiteMinder distributes their rate and inventory under a single agreement to a host of distribution partners. So effectively, it's a B2B platform for hotels. But on the partner side, there's a lot more advantages on both sides. So rather than a partner booking through a traditional B2B, they get to have a direct relationship with the hotel through SiteMinder, but without having to go and contract one-to-one with every single hotel. So that's a really exciting sort of new era of distribution for SiteMinder that we've been working on, and we're quite proud to release that last year. And it's actually our fastest growing add-on product or platform that we've ever had with SiteMinder. So I think
So walk me through. It's like I'm a hotel. I want to be connected to Booking.com, Expedia, I don't know, Agoda, like Hotels.com, whoever is out there. It's nothing to do with the meta search side, right? It's like the direct OTA connectivity. And
correct. So, and that's why a lot of hotels will use our platform. We have great distribution with their core channels, be that their direct booking engine, if it's ours or one of the others that we integrate with, Booking.com, Expedia, Airbnb. Right? They'll be using us and they will be strategically managing that. And we've got a host of tools around like Dynamic Revenue Plus, which helps them to optimize what rates they should be selling and where they should be selling it and how they should be selling it at all times across their core distribution. But of course, hotels want to also use us to expand their distribution, which isn't as easy as it sounds. You think, okay, I use a channel manager and I just add a bunch of channels, but there's still so much friction in that journey on both sides for hotels and for distribution channels. So a hotel might look at the next 10 channels in their market, contact 10 of those channels. If they're lucky, after some time, they might be contracted with 3 or 4 of them. And then they have to map them on their channel manager, and then they're set up and selling. And it becomes a lot of time and effort to really expand your distribution into what realistically isn't going to be giving you the same number of transactions as those core channels that you manage within a platform like SiteMinder for optimization more often. So what Channels Plus allows us to do is kind of reduce that friction on both sides. So you're managing your core distribution with those main channels through SiteMinder directly, but you can expand your distribution through Channels Plus through a single agreement with SiteMinder, where you can then set a single set of rates that you will allow to channels, which you can just turn on and off with a toggle within the Channels Plus environment.
so you
So
never log into the extranet of Booking.com anymore.
not Booking.com. Booking.com is one of those core channels that they would play with. But on that longer tail, there's no extranet. They don't have to upload their content into an extranet. They don't have to upload
Okay.
their images and cancellation policies. We do all of that. And that's not a manual sort of hamster wheel job. That is technically integrated. So when those channels are selling those hotels, they're pulling through all the content they need from the SiteMinder platform.
Got it. So you have a revenue management system, like so you suggest a pricing for the future, right? A price point for the future.
We do more than that. So Dynamic Revenue Plus, actually our pricing suggestions comes from Ideas. So we've got a very unique partnership with Ideas, enabling us to bring the power of sort of the Ideas revenue management algorithm and pricing to hotels that traditionally wouldn't have access to that level of technology. Like the implementation management of an Ideas platform, we've taken the cream off the top of Ideas, which is the pricing decisions. When a hotel signs up to Dynamic Revenue Plus with SiteMinder, we can send Ideas all the data they need in order to generating pricing decisions. And within 48 hours, they're sending us back pricing decisions for a hotel, but everything is coming through our UI. So we're delivering those. And it's only one leg of a 3-legged stool around the optimization for hotels through distribution. Pricing is only the one piece. We've got intelligence, which is very much SiteMinder led. So we're not pulling that in. Well, we've got some third party data, which is obviously required. So, we pull in event data so that we can say to hotels, like, this is what's going on in your area. These are the demand indicators for these events. And we can say, look, this is why we're suggesting this strategy. And then we got the distribution optimization, which is having a look at all other things that are going on in the market and saying, look, we can see an increase in guests coming from a specific market or through a specific channel into your region, and can suggest specific rate types that are attracting those guests, or specific channels, or the removal or adding of specific individual restrictions against rates to ensure that the hotel is best optimized for what's happening in their market at any one time.
Okay. I, so I understand the revenue management part and the pricing. What about reviews, the quality side of things? So how I think about it always is, guests are looking for value. Value is quality divided by price. So, okay, I have the price optimization. How do you make sure that you optimize the quality side of things? Because if you just look at the price point, you're just basically missing out of 50% of the other side of the equation. Is there anything you think about that in that direction, or you do something in that direction of quality expressed by basically reviews and feedback by guests?
We don't do enough on quality from that perspective. Like, a lot of platforms very much specialize around review management, such as yourself. So, like, ensuring that the hotels have a real understanding of what their impact is on the market and on guests, and how they're viewed by travelers. But it's certainly something that I think, in the future we should be looking more at, bringing that sort of data into hotels. Now, what we do look at is quality of content, ensuring that hotels are, distributing the right content with their partners and with their channels and through their direct bookings, and make the most of what they have. But yeah, in terms of, I've always seen from a pricing perspective, and you should probably feel the same, is that your hotels are in a much better position in terms of demanding that higher rate that a platform might be suggesting, when their quality score is higher. Like, you are in
Absolutely.
a position within your band, within your market, whether you're a upper mid scale or a mid scale, is one thing that determines your pricing, but where you sit within that band from a quality score obviously is going to give you a lot more flexibility on your ADR.
Yeah, 100% agree. And a lot of studies around there that suggest the same. Coming back to this, like, what are they looking for as value? So not pure price, and everyone is like prepared to pay more for better rated hotel in general. So by the way, there is an idea on the internet booking engine. What I always see, for example, booking.com is doing really well, is when I'm in this funnel as a user, and I have looked at multiple hotels. This is like the truth. Like, it's not only one hotel I'm going through and then book. It's like I'm in there, I'm looking through the funnel, and they're suggesting me, you're making a good choice. This hotel is really well rated for by business travelers or families with da 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 da. I continue, and then I'm on a room selection, and it says like with breakfast, without breakfast, and then suddenly this appears a little snippet. It says like breakfast is rated tremendously well in this property, 9 out of 10, and this is like the snippets around breakfast, like they love the coffee machine, like in the fresh coffee and this pastry or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Like I'm now much more likely to book through, and my conversion increases. And I actually don't see that job really well done out there in the market from the internet booking side of things, even though the data exists. So just like, and we could do much better for the direct booking conversion and for everything that is direct booking. So to enforce that and saying like, you're making a good choice if the data suggests it. Like, of course you shouldn't be lying, but if the data is there, you should actually present it and do the reputation management, which is also reputation marketing, is often forgotten, that you should actively speak about the good things that people say about you as well, and
And
not
it's
only
not
do the
just that.
quality side of things.
Yeah. I mean, to your example and what you said that are happening on the channels, they're doing it at the right time within that customer booking journey as well. Like,
Mm,
there's no point talking about breakfast when you're looking at an image of a beach, right? Or of a bedroom. But yes, if you're at that booking and you're at that point of choice where you're choosing between with breakfast or without breakfast, it adds a, context to your decision making at that time. Very interesting.
exactly.
Um, and yeah, look, direct, I think still has a lot to learn from conversions. Like the larger OTAs, Booking and Expedia, they have a magnificent room full of data engineers and data scientists who, literally live and breathe this every day. It's good for our industry to be able to pick up these tools, and a lot of the experiences you get in direct booking engines today have been inspired, shall we say, by other partners.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of like the big ones and what they are doing, and you see kind of the ChatGPTs and Geminis, etc., moving into also this world, and they say we can do a booking now with text, and we do it, via our platforms as the gatekeeper of the future there as well. How do you at SiteMinder think about that future, that AI future? How do you deploy this in your products? Like, do you have a strategy around this? Like, how you see the future, and then how you want to play in that future? That is the AI future, hospitality AI future.
Yeah, of course, we keep a very keen eye on what the developments are there. It is constantly changing at the moment, and seeing how we can best service our hotels in those environments. At the moment, really, it's around ensuring that they are findable, that they are, discoverable within AI as a brand, right? Because, you know, the from a booking perspective, and I'm not going to say we're a little bit of way off that, but those bookings are still happening within the channels, and it's very much a referral piece that's happening, I think, at the moment from an AI perspective from those engines. That area is developing quickly, and of course, we're keeping an eye on how we can best support our hotels to get that opportunity. From the AI company perspective, there's a lot of noise saying, "Oh, look, they're just going to Booking and Expedia and they're partnering up, and we're not going to get an opportunity." But you can see why they would do that. Like, you have to test it with somewhere where you can get a lot of inventory at a single place, right? We have 50,000 hotels, but even that's probably not enough for them to get a true understanding of how to convert and how to make that work from a traveler's experience perspective. I'm confident that the opportunities for hotels will be coming along. So, we're definitely trying to position SiteMinder to help the hotels get the most out of those bookings from AI.
Don't you see a world where, for example, I have my agent as a user, as a consumer, and then I ask the agents like, "Hey, I want to go to Ottawa, Sydney, suggest a couple of hotels," and I like this one hotel. And then I ask the agents like, "Hey, what are the prices? Like, do a price comparison. Where do I find the best prices?" And at that point, wouldn't it make sense for a hotel to say, "Well, my price instead of 150 on booking is 140 for you, like for you specifically?" And then it's like, and then wouldn't it make sense then for that agent to be capable of booking direct if this is like what, because it's the best option for me? Is that is
And I
that
think, look, the agentic AI bookings is a little further away at the moment. It's still very much going to be users inputting into AI, and the same thing is true. You have to be findable, and your rates have to be findable for those searches. Booking and Expedia will have their MCPs similar to how Meta works today. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a monetized thing within the AIs in the same way that Meta is within Google. A lot of the transactions that we expect to come through AI will be moving from what's happening in Meta search today, be it Google Hotel Finder, Trivago, and others, which is where people are searching and comparing prices and discovering today. that comparison moves to AI, there is demand for that direct rate to be there. There is a lot of direct business that comes through those channels today, and consumers would be missing out if the direct rate isn't findable and managed in a fairly similar fashion.
Okay. Interesting. And then on your B2B side of things, like you mentioned intelligence tools as well on your side, do you deploy that today, or is it something in the future where you have a release plan 2026 where we use, I don't know, we have something like talk to your own data, which we are now experimenting and releasing Q1, where you can just ask a question on anything like, hey, compare this with this one and show me a deep dive into our service score because there seems to be a problem, and suggest a mid to long term plan. It's like an NDI is actually doing all of that, gives you a graph, gives you the suggestions, gives you the plan, puts it out, and is like it's amazing what you can do with it. Is there something that in this direction you already have something, or you're thinking about having something?
So what we've got within SiteMinder is the backbone of data, which is called SiteMinder IQ, which is
Hmm.
effectively the accessible data for an AI engine or LLM to be able to do exactly as you're saying. So at the moment, we're very focused on ensuring that the right data is available and the structure is there. I think what when it comes to distribution and rate management, when you can ask a machine anything based on a set of data, graphs are lovely, as you say. Look, they're very impressive. Obviously, that is basically another report. We have reporting within the platform today. It needs to be able to do that combined with an actionable outcome. We want it to be able to come back with something and say, hey, look, you asked a question. Here's the answer. Plus, here's 3 recommendations. And depending on how you interpret that answer in terms of what needs to happen. So we're experimenting on that. And there'll be some stuff coming out, which is giving some context around the reports for users, so that the business intelligence, so that they can see how to interpret that data better, and how AI is interpreting that data. But I think it's more important to start thinking, we're using the AI from a predictive analytics perspective to say, what does that mean for these stay dates, and what are the actions that I can take to improve my situation through those periods?
And then maybe last question, but it's a maybe a loaded one, is how do you see the tech stack of the future evolving? Like today we have a lot of different tech in hospitality. I don't know, you can simply very easily count maybe 20 different technology stacks a hotel is buying or needs to buy today. Do you see that changing over the next couple of years because of this AI, because things are moving together more, or do you think it's going to be the same? And what's your thesis
I
of
don't think it's going to be consolidating platforms into anything as such. I think functionalities from platforms are moving, and we've already seen that from the PMS, like where you take an example like Apaleo, which is a very forward-thinking API first platform. Look, they're only going to build into that what they need, but it's a very much partner driven and customizable through integrations based on what you need, right? And I would like to see a lot more of that over the next sort of 3 to 5 years. Uh, Similar, really, with Muse, where they have a lot of integrations available through different partners, and Oracle, of course, doing much the same through OHIP. So I don't see us having less app categorizations. If anything, there's more, because there's more that people can do for hospitality in the future.
really? I would challenge that.
Wow. So you wouldn't see maybe Uber suddenly being integrated into the hospitality environment, so that hotels are able to book directly Ubers, or that's going to become agentic, where the PMS is saying, look, this checkout happened or is happening in half an hour, and it can automatically go off and book a car. I think you'll see other people look at the total GMV of hospitality globally. It's not easy to ignore for tech companies to say, look, actually, we can play a hand in that, and we can have a piece in that.
No, it's like I would agree on that. I think that the part I would probably phrase a little bit different, maybe we're meaning the same, but is, for example, I see today a lot of technology players that somehow communicate with the guest. It starts actually with a booking. It's like from the booking and the website, and then throughout the journey, booking confirmation, pre-stay communication, during stay communication and checks, post-stay, and then marketing. All of that you can say like that is somehow communication with a guest. And there are a lot of different players involved in this. We have a tech stack of a CRM, we have a tech stack of a CDP, we have a tech stack of a messaging solution. Then we have a text, there's like a chat bot here. At the end of the day, I think those will morph into one communication layer with a guest, which is an agentic communication layer that will take the knowledge as context into account. And that knowledge can come from different, data sets. Could be a PMS, could be a channel management, could be a pricing system, could be a CDP, etc. But I think the communication layer would change dramatically in terms of the tech stack that we're using to do it, because it makes no sense in the future to have 5 different systems communicating with the guests on different channels and different purposes and throughout the chain. I think that's gonna we'll see that change happening pretty quickly within the next
I
12
don't
months.
doubt there'll be platforms out there that will do every stage of that journey from a communication perspective. And any platform today that's doing one of those is probably looking at saying, well, look, how can I do the pre-arrival stuff? And how can I do, if I'm just doing one part? But, again, it kind of moves from that. Do I guess communication is becoming such a large factor within their hospitality and becoming more important that people will choose to specialize on certain parts of the customer journey. So what is right from an upsell perspective, because it's got integration with revenue management and it's doing more dynamic pricing on upsells and so on, may be a very specialized tool for one particular brand, but actually what they want from a lead gen communication when it comes to remarketing and marketing through their social media may be very different specialized sort of requirements. And I don't necessarily see them coming. If it could become more of there's a jack of all trades platform, which does a little bit of all of them, or you have a master of one where you need to really focus on specific parts of the journey. I agree both of them are going to exist, but I don't think one's going to remove the need for the other.
The reason why I like to think that is not really driven by I'm a big believer of best of breed technology. And so I don't think it's like, oh, I can master it all and this is where this versus this one. I think it's more coming from the guest needs and the guest expectations that will drive this outcome.
So
And
I think that's a technical problem in that those platforms need to be able to communicate to the guest through the same channels and not appear from a voice perspective. But if if they start WhatsApping on pre-arrival and then you get a different WhatsApp message from a different number for during the stay and post stay, maybe some people don't mind. It would be better if that's in a single channel, but I think that's more of a issue rather from an industry perspective rather than anything else. So we should be able to manage that.
yeah, okay, and maybe we can then come back to the same outcome where, okay, if some system does the communication, has the context of the past as well, it will tap into the knowledge, what I call knowledge of other systems to do certain jobs well, like kind of, and so that's what I'm saying. It's like kind of it will be a communication interface, which is one which because you need it, because it needs your history, needs the context of that guest, and what I have been chatting back and forth. And even if I'm switching channels, I want to keep that context. And so I'm calling you. I still want to have the context of my chat history,
Yeah.
and all of that needs to be managed. And then tap into the best upselling, whatever the best upselling solution would be at this point, or the best checking solution at this point, or whatever solution we need from a knowledge perspective that has the best data at this point in time.
Yeah. And yeah, access to knowledge, be that data from a platform perspective or for an app's perspective, is becoming or has become a lot more important as we start looking at those applications from an AI perspective. Something we put some thought around in the last last year actually, and why we're currently deepening our integrations with partner platforms like PMS so that we can start bringing and sending additional data and retrieving additional data from those platforms to make them available to the hotels. And it's the hotels data once it's there, so they can start utilizing that and partnering with what they need to ensure that they're managing the hotel as they like.
Okay, interesting. So big future ahead of us. Market size is going to increase. SiteMinder is going to do well. Like kind of this is the takeaway, and you guys going to continue, be out there and forging partnerships, and not only on the OTA side but also on the tech side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So I'm very much looking forward to see that. Hopefully we can even I know we are partnering. Maybe we can partner even further in the future. And I'm very much looking forward to see you again in one of these shows. I don't know. ITB is already around the corner in Berlin. And thanks a lot for the great conversation here today. And
No,
wish
I've
you a lot
enjoyed
of
it.
luck.
Thanks so much for having me along. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you and your team.
Cool. James, was a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Take care, mate.
Take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.